I don't even think it's going to do a countdown. I'm looking over there on YouTube, and
it's doing it.
It's doing it. Okay,
I saw it. Yeah,
it counted down.
So it didn't even look like it was starting for some reason. So I'm glad it finally kicked in. But good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Shop with Russ. Going to have a good time tonight. We have Jerill from the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop, I believe it is, on tonight, and he's even on PBS in West Virginia. I'm like, wow, really? We have kind of a celebrity on tonight.
Yes.
So yeah, ready to do this. Before I get started, and I just want to say, if I act a little funny tonight, it's because this is the second time on my property in about 3 years that I ran into a hornet's nest. Okay, they tagged me about 10 times this afternoon. I wasn't going to do the show. I was ready to cancel it. And because I have a couple of herniated discs in my back, my doctor gave me some good pain medicine. Normally I don't take it, but I decided to take it. They popped me a couple times on the arm. They got me right here in the bridge of my nose, my shoulder, my leg. I mean, they chased me all the way up on my back porch, and I just happened to have some flying insect killer on my porch. As I went up on my porch, I grabbed the can and I backed myself up on the porch into a corner. So the only way they could get to me was from the front side, and I just started fogging. And if they finally left and went away, but they eat me up really good. So if you've never been stung by a hornet and you've never been stung 10 times by hornets, let me tell you, it hurts. Literally, it is painful, more than what you'd even think. So, but I appreciate that. Don't forget, if you're out there, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that very much. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up right now. That would really be good. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe over there on YouTube to Simply Wooden Creations. And if you will hit that little bell in the corner up there on YouTube, it will notify you anytime I post a new video or I do a live stream. And before we go any further, let me talk about my wonderful sponsors, and they are Devobal Technologies. For web design, development, hosting, visit devobal.com. FastCap, innovative products for the professional woodworker. Go to fastcap.com. Rockler, 60 years in woodworking. Create with confidence. Visit rockler.com. Bearwood Supply Company, your best choice for hard-to-find woodworking supplies. Go to bearwood.com. Klingspor, the sanding specialist, woodworkingshop.com, and Seiko, the scroll saw specialist, Seiko.com. So, Mr. Jim, you're the first one. Brenda's usually the first one in here, but Jim.
Yeah, this is my premier first time here. Jim Bashir's from Driveway Workshop, and we are going to have a really, really good show tonight. I'm really excited to have Jerill here and some of the stuff that he's doing in the community and that. You guys will really enjoy it. So we should have a great show.
Paul Corliss from Paul's Messy Workshop. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram. You can find me here on Saturday night. And we already got one good laugh in the chat out here. Len's handcrafted wood sign says he's laughing at the thought of Russ running.
Let me tell you, Fat Boy don't run often, but I was giving it hell. I was trying to get away from them as fast as I could. Yes, they literally chased me for about 50 feet up onto my back porch.
Yeah, to get you a holster and have a can of that hornet spray right on your belt and be ready.
The thing about it is my next door neighbor, who is now deceased, Adela, she had bought one of these plants. They're called firecracker plants. They look like fireworks going off when they bloom. They're beautiful plants. And she bought one, and it got kind of like about 5 or 6 foot high. And I was like, man, that's about the beautifulest thing I ever seen. And I said, I'd love to have one of those. Well, lo and behold, about 2 or 3 days later, she comes knocking on my door and hands me a gallon pot with one of those firecracker plants in it. And sweet lady, she's been gone for like 3 or 4 years now. She passed. We had brain cancer and passed away. But anyway, so I planted that in my backyard. Well, I hadn't been paying attention. I looked over. It hadn't rained a lot lately, and I've been having to water it. The strange thing about it is I've been watering it for over a month, going the same place, putting the same sprinkler on it, turning the same hose on, everything. Today, when I went out there and put the sprinkler down and went to turn around and go back and turn the water on, guess what? Boom, they hit me. Their nest is within 6 foot of that plant. What I did, maybe they didn't like my cologne. I have no clue. But they hit me, and I've got 10 bites. Some of my arms, the one, like I said, hurts the worst is this one right here, because every once in a while it'll just shoot a stabbing pain through my skull. Not that there's anything
in your beard.
Well, not that there's not anything in there, but it just bounces off that hollow hole in there enough that it hurts. So.
What was that? What was the cologne you were wearing? Was it called Yellow Jacket?
No, it was called Hornets Love Me.
Stingy butt is what it did.
Stinging butt, yeah. All right. So anyway, I think we're at Al. Al?
Oh, yeah. Al Forte. Oh, Kilroy 79763 everywhere. Stream tomorrow on Twitch, 2 p.m. Maybe work a little bit on the Lady Washington. Who knows? I've got a YouTube channel also that is there. Anyway, and I'm all over the place. Kilroy 79763, and it's great to be here with Jerill.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well, he's down here for me. He's over
all
here.
All
right, Dixon.
I'm Dixon Hoffman. You can find me at hoffmansignsandDecals.com. And that's about it. Glad to be here with the gang.
Great. Chris.
Hey guys, Chris here from the Old Cranky Workshop. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube. And on a day like today, unlike Russell, I was just lounging in the pool. So, see, you're doing retirement wrong, Russell. You get out of the yard, get into the pool.
Yeah, I wish I had a pool to dive in.
Well, maybe
I would have dove in it to get rid of their butts.
Maybe Maker will build you one.
Yeah, and I got news for you. If you've never been stung by a hornet and you've never been stung 10 times, you have no clue as to the feeling, because it is painful, very, very painful. So, but yeah, I was like over a stupid, simple sprinkler that I tried to put out. Michelle Marcoux said something about he's itching all over just thinking about it. So
the secret word is itching.
Yeah. Real quick before I introduce Jerill, Christopher Marcus Smith says, "Hey y'all, first time caller." Yeah. We monitor, just to let everybody know, he's on Facebook. We monitor. I have the chat. I monitor Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch simultaneously. Jeff Walsmer's over there on Facebook also. We have Rick St. Louis, Jeff Walsmer, Michelle Lumnitter.
Yeah, Mitchell.
I'm a name butcher, by the way, just so Lynn's Hafted Wood Signs, Jim Dockrell, Aussie Man, who is always out there, M. Chav. Yeah, Aussie Man. Are all out there. I'm just trying to run back through the chat so that nobody. Okay, before we go any further, this is a statement that I would like to make. And holy crap, this thing goes back so far I can't even go back. Moon Pie Creations.
Yeah, Ken's out there. Ken was out there.
Ken's out there. Jim Dockrell, I think I said Jim Aussie Man. Just going back, trying to put. All right, so listen, guys. Between myself and everybody on this panel, we try very, very hard to watch the chat and look for questions. There is no doubt with this many people, sometimes we have 50, 60 people watching the show from all three streams coming in at one time. There's no doubt we're going to miss your question, because sometimes the chat goes by like a ticker tape, and everybody on the show will testify to the same thing. So here's what you do. You do one of two things. You can either repeat your questions a couple of times, and I don't care if you repeat them up 2 or 3 times, so we will see them. So don't feel like we're ignoring you, because I swear to God, we're not ignoring you. Okay? Or you can add the @ symbol. All right? The @ symbol is that little A with a circle almost all the way around it, which is on your keyboard above the number 2. You hit the Shift and @ and you start typing in Simply Wooden Creations. Well, as soon as you hit the SIM, Simply Wooden Creations will pop up on the chat. What you do is click on that and type in your message, and it will actually highlight your message for me so I can see it. Now, I've never tried that. Actually, one of y'all try that so I can see what it looks like.
It does work. It does work.
Yes, but I don't know if it'll work on Restream.
How do you spell that?
It's at simplywoodencreations.com. Yeah, see, it's not working on. Y'all will see it, but I don't see it.
It didn't highlight for you?
I just
No,
a
not
bunch of
when it's
people are
going
saying
through
that.
Restream. Not when it's going through Restream. It doesn't do that.
Oh.
So, but anyways, my point is, you can do the @ and try that or whatever. But please understand, we are not ignoring you. We're not really trying to ignore you. And I swear to God, we don't play cricket noises when people ask questions. All right, we just don't do that. So if y'all will bear with us and post your question a few times, we will get with you. We will try to. And I want to tell Jim and Paul and Al and Dixon and Chris, do your best to help me watch the chat. I know Brenda doesn't. Brenda is not here tonight. She had a friend pass away and she's attending the funeral. But Brenda usually does an excellent job at helping me watch the chat and points out a lot of questions that I miss. But we're not trying to ignore you, and we're not trying to cause any problems. With that being said, after I took half of the show to talk about all this?
Yes.
Well, it is your show.
With that being said, we have Jerill Vance from the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. How you doing tonight, Jerill?
Doing good. I appreciate you having me on, Russ.
Well, we appreciate you being here. And from some of y'all who don't know, he's from West Virginia or Virginia?
West Virginia, yes.
West Virginia. He's on the PBS channel there in West Virginia with his woodworking shop and shows people how to do woodworking. I mean, that's really great. I mean, that's good.
Thank you, Russ. Thank you.
You're welcome. Usually I get to ask the first question, and I always do. I don't know why. I guess it's because of my show. But all right, so let's go back a little bit in time. How did you first get started in woodworking?
Well, how far back you want to go? My first paying job is when I was 14 years old. Every summer I would ride my bicycle to and from a construction site and work as what they called a carpenter's helper, 50 cents an hour. Prior to that, my grandfather, he built a couple houses and a cabin, and my dad did too. But I can remember I was real little. My grandfather gave me a bunch of bent nails and told me to go over in the corner and straighten the nails. And here I was thinking I'm helping my grandfather, and then later I find out that's a way of dealing with young ones that are sort of in the way when you're trying to be productive. But my family did a lot of construction work, so it was natural. And it's just something that I enjoy.
You say that, but that's not true. My father that's how I got, my father was a carpenter. So that's what got me into it. And I tell everybody, I had a hammer in my hand with the time I was knee high to a grasshopper. And so, but you say about straightening out, that just brings back. So my father used to gather the bent nails on the job. I kid you not, and put them in a 5-gallon bucket and bring them to me and my brother. and we would sit there with a hammer on an anvil and straighten those suckers out, and he would reuse them.
We had my grandfather brought him in a coffee can, and we had a hammer and a brick.
Yep.
Yep.
We were straight. I'm serious. If he went to build something, he would get it in that bucket and get those nails that we straightened out, and he would reuse them. I mean, my father, you have to realize, my father was old enough. He went through the Great Depression, so he knew what it was to have save anything and everything you could to survive through that time. Buster Stott is over there in Facebook. Says hello, Aussie man, still out there. Appreciate y'all being out there. Jim, I know you're chomping at the bit. You've got some questions for him.
Yeah, but you kind of caught me off guard. I was going to ask something kind of funny. Hey, how many of you guys, getting back to the coffee can thing and the straightening nails on, how many of your guys' dads had like baby food jars where they'd scoop up into something and then
and then my dad had the Maxwell coffee can where he staved all the old nails.
Oh man, dozens of
nails, screws, nuts. Yeah. Don't toss them any out.
All right, Jim, you said you had so many questions.
I got them, but I'm trying to organize them. So, all right.
Well, he froze up.
You know, the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop.
You froze up there, Jim. Just so you said all right.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't even me.
What exactly is the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop? I mean, I know it's kind of a show, but you went through a period of time where you were like an engineer, and then you went back to college when you were in your 50s at the ripe old age of whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, what made you jump out of that and go into college and then start this PBS show thing?
Well, first off, I need to say I'm not an engineer. Okay. I did work for a chemical company in research and development for 32 and a half years. During that time, I had a woodworking business on the side. I was fortunate in the sense that the company I worked for got bought out by a bigger company. So I was offered a severance. And part of that severance was retraining the ATAA, which is a Federal Retraining Act, and I wanted to teach woodworking. So that means I went back to college at 55 and got a degree in fine woodworking so that I could teach woodworking. I know after the end of the first week of that schooling, the instructor pulled me off to the side and he said, "What in the hell are you doing here?" You know. I said, "Well, I got to have that sheepskin to do anything, you know." So, yeah, I mean, I did learn a lot, but I had a very, very good background before I did enter into that program. But that degree has opened doors for me. I did teach woodworking in the prison system in Kentucky. That was a lot of fun. Wow. It really was. It was a good program. I've taught woodworking here in West Virginia. I'm working with a local community and technical college now, setting up a program. But one of the things that I do, I also demonstrate woodworking, period woodworking, you know, living history. So what I did was I decided to combine all of my interests, and I approached the local West Virginia PBS and pitched the idea to them, and they liked it, and they said, "Well, you know, make a few episodes and we'll see how it goes." So for the first season, I did 6 episodes, and that was considered a pilot season. And for you people that don't know, West Virginia is a very small state. The population is about, I don't know, 1.3, 1.4 million and dropping. You know, we have no city over 50,000, you know. So the first season, the pilot season, I had a Nielsen rating of 5,400 and something, you know, average. And West Virginia PBS said, "Well, that's great, you know." So I thought I'd do a season 2, and started on that and had some family medical issues. So we put everything on hold. And literally just as soon as we were done with that, I called the PR firm I'm working with, called them up, and I said, okay, we're ready to start. And it was like 2 weeks later, the governor shut everything down because of COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. Then I had to wait for that, but I'm fortunate we got the 13 episodes done. I mentioned to you that my wife is the editor. She also wrote all the music that is used on the episode, so I don't have any copyright issues.
Oh, wow.
And then, submitted that, and West Virginia PBS loved it. I talked to Kentucky PBS, and they watched all 13 episodes, and they loved it. So they're going to schedule it. I just don't know when.
Now, is it on like the PBS? What do I want to say? Like the PBS thing where any of the PBS stations could pick it up and stuff? Because you said something about it's in the West Virginia area, and then maybe getting picked up by Kentucky. We've got WTTW up here, and we've got another station here in Northwest Indiana here by me that, God, I used to get on that, and every Saturday, and I remember Glenna, my wife, would get on me because all Saturday morning, all I did was sit there and watch This Old House, Yankee Workshop, the Woodwright Shop, American Workshop, and then Tommy Mack was on then, that was it back then. It was before YouTube and things like that where you had different channels. So is that going to be available wider than just that area?
That's a good question, Jim, and I'll answer that as best I can. I am what's called, I am the owner and the producer of this series, okay? I do not get paid or any compensation for PBS airing it, and PBS does not receive anything from me. It's a win-win situation. They need programming, and I have a show for them to program. When they air it, then I get the exposure, which helps my audience. Now, I'm what's called an independent owner-producer. I own it. So I have allowed West Virginia PBS to air it, and I'm going to allow Kentucky PBS to air it. For it to go national, like you're saying, Jim, which is what Kentucky PBS wants me to do, there is a cost involved. And right now, that's the holdup right now. It costs, believe it or not, it costs about $5,000 to distribute it to other states.
Yeah.
And that's money out of my pocket because I'm the producer.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, what I'm hoping for is to get what they call an underwriter. I'm hoping to get a business or an individual that would step forward and say, I will pay to have the show distributed.
Right. But if I'm understanding about the way the PBS works, actually as long as you're willing, Kentucky could pick you up for free and distribute it over there if they wanted to.
That is correct. But here's the thing, and this didn't make sense to me either, Russ. I approached West Virginia PBS. I approached Kentucky PBS. I have been told that the people at these PBS affiliates that make the decision on whether to air a show or not, they get bombarded with 5, 6, 7 requests per day.
Right.
So a lot of requests, they don't even look at the show, so they really recommend going through a third party. Otherwise, you're liable to just get lost and swept under the rug, so to speak.
Right. But and I understand what you're saying, but my point is, if somebody over there on the Kentucky PBS saw your show over in West Virginia and said, hey, this is a pretty good show, we need to put it over on ours too, they could do that for free.
That is correct. And what a lot of people don't know, a lot of these PBS affiliates has what they call a reciprocal agreement. In other words, West Virginia, if they have a show that is owned and produced within the state of West Virginia, they will trade that show to a neighboring state for a show that is made and produced in that neighboring state. So you're exactly right,
Yeah.
But again, with me being the owner producer, I'm the one
Right.
that makes the decision. So if PBS in Texas contacts me and says, we want to air your show, well, obviously I'm going to say, yes, I'll let you air the show,
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wouldn't cost you anything. But in the same aspect, if you wanted to produce it for West Virginia or Georgia or Atlanta or New York or whatever, you have to actually pay for them to show your show. In other words,
I don't know about that. All I know is that I don't pay West Virginia or Kentucky PBS to air the show.
Yeah. But my point is that you were talking about you would have to pay the $5,000 that they picked you.
Yeah, that is to a third-party company, and that third-party company takes what I would give them, and then they would go out and distribute it to all 50 states.
Okay.
They know who to contact. They know all the different stations within each state, and they know which markets like what type of programming. So that's all done by a third party.
Okay,
And that's where the money would go, not to the PBS and not to me. It goes to the third party.
Right. I was a little confused, and that explained it to me. Yeah, that explained it really well. I understand what you're saying now. Yeah. So okay, that's pretty cool.
And I will say this, Kentucky. PBS is considered a non-commercial program.
Right.
So in order to ensure that nobody capitalizes on something that they have, they require the shows to be trademarked. So I am trademarked. Now that has taken about 3 years and considerable amount of time and effort. But what that does, any of the items that I build on the show, if somebody else sees it, and I'll use Jim as an example, if Jim were to see it and say, hey, I can do that, and if he started mass producing that item and selling it, then the trademark would protect me and prohibit him from doing that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Jim, you're a bad boy for doing that.
I know. I have no defense.
Yeah.
Hey, let's jump into the show though a little bit. What exactly, for most of us that have not seen it because we don't live in West Virginia, what's the format of the show? You go around and try to do some, teach people about Appalachian type of furniture items, stuff like that?
What I do is I highlight the Appalachian culture by examining Appalachian furniture from the past. Now, I define Appalachian furniture as furniture that was made by the people that came into the Appalachian area. And as you know, the Appalachian area covers about 13 states. The people that came into here, they brought their own tools, and then they had to start by cutting the trees down, build their own cabins, log homes, their own homestead. So they also built their own furniture. And the furniture that they built was furniture that made their daily chores easier to perform. They didn't build things as a luxury. They didn't build it as a convenience, and they didn't build it as a form of art. They built it because it was necessary.
Almost like shaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things, because society has changed, a lot of these chores are no longer done. And since these chores are no longer done, the furniture that was built to make that chore easier is no longer relevant. And people like Russ and Russ's dad probably used a lot of these pieces. But the problem is the generation after us, they have no idea. They don't know what an ice box is,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
you got that right.
Exactly. And I know my grandmother, even after she got a refrigerator, she continued to call it an ice box.
Yep.
Out of habit. But I look at the social aspects of it. So for my show, each episode is broken down into 3 segments. I go to a place of historic interest where they have documented pieces, historic pieces from the Appalachian area. And I will feature that piece, and I will show how it was used 2 or 3 generations ago. And that's the intro to my show. And that's done in, I call it black and white. And my son and my wife continue to correct me. It's sepia toned.
Sepia, yeah.
Yeah. So it's in black and white. So that sort of sets the mood. And, we're talking about just a few minutes there, Then I'll interview somebody that's familiar with that piece, knowledgeable about it, and we will discuss about, how it was designed, how it was used. And then for the third and last segment, I go back to my shop, redesign the piece, and build it to today's standards using good quality hardwood, so that people can see how it was built. Now, you got to remember, most of these weren't built by professionals. They were built by the common person to perform a simple task.
So it's similar to what Norm did on New Yankee Workshop, where he'd go to a museum or someplace like that, look at a piece of furniture and take some measurements, and then go back in his shop and rebuild the piece.
It's very similar, only most of the time Norm stayed pretty close to the original. I do make some design changes, but yeah, it's very similar to that. Yes.
So how were you able to get out last year when COVID hit and they locked everything down? Were you kind of locked into your shop, or how?
That's a good question, Jim. Most of my on-location videos were done before the COVID lockdown. I think there was 2 that were not done, and we did them at what I call an old homestead. It's basically an old abandoned farmhouse. I got permission from the owner, and we went in there and did it. So most of the on-location was done before the COVID lockdown, and then the rest of it was done in my shop. And unfortunately, because of COVID, I couldn't have a cameraman or a sound technician come in like I should have, or did the pilot season. So,
All right. So we got a question from, hold on, let me back up from.
Len's handcrafted?
Yes. Apparently you were talking about old beams and everything. And so she asks, where do you get the old beams and how much do you produce from one of them?
Okay. I recently worked on a collaborative project with Ken Moon. I think you said Ken was in the chat room.
Yeah, Ken was in the chat. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I got a bunch of old beams, hand-hewed beams from 3 buildings on an old farm that had fallen in. They collapsed in on themselves.
Right.
And the farmer that owned that, this was about a 4 or 5 generation farm. He took his tractor and equipment, went in and drug out the beams that were supporting the floor. Those were all hand hewed. And I got those. And some of those I had milled into boards. And then some of them I sold as mantles, sold some as architectural decorative pieces to a contractor. But Ken Moon and I worked on a collaborative piece, actually, I think 2 or 3 pieces, using some of those old hand-hewed beams. They're still available in the Appalachian area. You just got to look for them.
Right. So did you buy them from him or did he give them to you?
I bought them at a very low price.
Right. Yeah, that's not, but I understand what you're saying, because some of those beams, what are their sizes? Like 10 by 10, 8 by 8, or?
The biggest one was 12 by 12 and 20 foot long. And then they were down from that. I think the smallest one was 6 by 8 and only about 8 or 10 feet long.
Yeah. So that was the floor of the barn, so to speak. So they're going to be big, strong timbers. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, Jerill, when you do your projects and stuff for the shows, what do you do with the pieces when you're done with them? Do you have an extra house you put all those in?
Boy. My wife told me I could not build anymore. Our house is
She's locked down the show.
I'm telling you. I'm not.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. This is for your wife.
And
Oh, come on.
No, you can do it, Russ. Come on.
There you go.
All right, that was for your wife.
Right
You
now,
can't build anymore. Hey.
right now in my garage, and I'm not exaggerating, I've probably got about 16 to 18 pieces in my garage. And these are pieces that I have built for this show. And what it is with COVID, I have no outlet, no festivals, fairs, galleries, or anything.
Yeah.
So all I have is a website, So if somebody contacts me through the website, I can sell them something, and I will, and I have. But
So they are up. They are up for sale. In other words.
Anything I have will be for sale. Yeah.
All right. But you don't have any place to list them as of yet?
Well, you got to remember the state is just now opening up. They're
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think our state actually opened up. I believe it was the 1st of May, and it's on a limited basis.
Right.
So a lot of the people, even with it open, a lot of the people still aren't getting out as much as they would have if COVID hadn't reared its ugly head.
Right. Well, there's no doubt in my mind if once they get started where you can advertise that they're up and available. I went through your videos and everything, and here's one of the things that's kind of like funny, and I hate to tell you this, but before you contacted me about being on the show and everything, and I was like, I never heard of you.
Exactly.
And so then when I went to your YouTube channel and started watching some of your videos, I was like, wow, really?
Yeah, really.
So I was like, I was amazed, and I was like, awesome. This guy is like really, really good. So,
Russ, I'm a good woodworker, but I'm a very, very poor when it comes to marketing. Very poor.
Right. And
a lot of us are like that.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of us. I think a lot of us have problems with marketing. I have a problem with the marketing of this show. To be honest with you, this is season 7. So I've been doing this for 7 years, bringing people on and talking to them and doing different things. So I've been doing this for 7 years. But you're right. A lot of it has to do with marketing. But when you say that about marketing, you also have to say that marketing costs.
It does. Yes.
Yeah. Unless you're physically capable of the know-how, you have to pay somebody to market you. And that goes back to the same thing you were talking about before. You have all these pieces, but you need to sell them to make some money to be able to get marketing going. So
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Russ, we've got some questions out there.
Another one. Yeah, go ahead.
Hang on, let me scroll up.
I know I got one right here. Jeff Wall
go ahead.
said, what is your favorite wood to use or work with? And with this, what is your favorite finish to use? So your favorite wood that you like to work with, and what is your favorite finish?
I can answer that question. Jeff, thanks for asking that. And this is going to sound strange, but I'm sure everybody here on the panel can relate to this. Whatever wood I'm using at that time is my favorite. And by the time I'm done with that project, that is no longer my favorite. I love going in the shop early in the morning, and if I use walnut the day before, when I walk into the shop, I can smell the walnut. Yes. Same way with cherry, same way with oak. So to answer your question, I use only native wood. All of it I like. All of it has its good points and bad points. Whatever I'm using at that time is my favorite. By the time I'm done with that project, I'm anxious to use a different species.
Right.
So I really like walnut, cherry, maple, oak, poplar, sassafras, persimmon. I've used that. That's a lot of fun. Of course, elm, birch, beech, just about all the native wood I get. And
I have to tell you though, my favorite wood is whatever somebody gives to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my favorite. The second part of his question was finish. What do you like to use for a finish?
Thank you, Jeff, and Russ for reminding me of that. Now, this is going to sound strange, but what I prefer, now, of course, being in business, I have to be able to satisfy the client. So whatever the client wants as a finish, after we have a discussion, I either agree to use that or else we don't do business together, So you have to be flexible when you're in business, But as far as my personal preference, I prefer what I call a hybrid finish. I like to use an oil varnish blend, put that on the wood, let that soak in, usually give it a couple coats. Then that has to dry for probably about 4 or 5 days, and then give it a seal coat of shellac, a de-waxed shellac.
Yes.
Several coats, spraying, sanding. And then after that, I like to use a water-based polyurethane.
Cool.
And that's my favorite finish. You get the
Now,
good.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you up to the point that I've used water-based polyurethane, but I've never put it over, what'd you say was the last
Shellac.
one? Yeah. Shellac? I've never used it over shellac. You don't have a problem with it bonding or sticking?
No, there's no problem as long as it's de-waxed shellac. If you use shellac with wax in it, nothing will stick.
Yeah, all right. I got you.
De-waxed shellac is considered a sealer.
Yes.
So it's one of the better sealers to use. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Okay, I didn't realize that. Wow,
Yeah.
That's
The
pretty
water-
cool. That you could.
The water-based polyurethane is the protective finish.
Right.
The shellac is the seal between the oil and the water. And of course, the oil varnish actually soaks into the grain and enhances the grain of the wood. So you really get the best aspects of those three finishes.
Yes, I totally agree with you because water-based polyurethane, I've discovered over the years, it's the Mac Daddy. I mean, it is really, really, really good, but I've never tried it over the shellac. But once you said the de-waxed shellac, then now that makes sense.
Yeah,
I never even heard of
that. If you use regular polyurethane, of course, it has a tendency to yellow. Water-based,
yes, it will yellow. There ain't no tendency; it will yellow.
Exactly. And if you use it on something like hard maple, then over time it really affects the visual appearance. You don't see it with walnut, but you do with what they call the white.
And that was the problem with the old varnishes years ago. You could take a beautiful piece of like a white oak and build some cabinets and cover them with the old varnish and come back 5 or 6 years later and you would have almost a yellow tint cabinets where the varnish had yellowed over the period of time, and it will yellow. There's that's one of the things that I've discovered. There's very few things on the market, even to this day, that won't produce a yellow. The water-based polyurethane won't yellow over a period of time, but yeah, that's right. That's good information. Jim, you said you were going to. You had something. I'm sorry.
I was looking through the chat here, but we had among some of the questions. Len's Handcrafted Wood Science was asking if you use newer tools or old style tools or both.
That's a good question, and I use both. Like I said, I actually demonstrate woodworking using hand tools, and there's nothing better than hand cut dovetails. But by the same token, if I have a client and I'm building a chest of drawers, they're concerned about the cost. So to lower the overhead, sometimes I will use a router and dovetail jig. So I use both. I have a fully equipped shop. My shop is 28 feet wide and 56 feet long.
Wow.
Nice.
It is heated and air conditioned. I work in there year round, and it is filled, and I mean filled with machinery.
Yeah, I saw you had like a shop tour thing, and the first thing you said on the video is, "I hate to do shop tours."
I do.
But you did it.
But, you know, I don't want people to think I'm bragging or anything. You know.
Yeah, I've gotten that.
I do like my shop. I do like spending time in there.
Jimbo asked if you ever used plum wood in a project.
Actually, I have not. I have tried to get it, and I actually had a lead on getting some off of a local university. Had a plum tree that they were going to cut down, and I was supposed to get that. Any of your ornamental trees or any of your fruit-bearing trees are excellent for lathe work. It's some of the best wood you can use for lathe turning. Most of those are very close-grained, tight-grained wood, so they usually do very good with hand tools, whether it be a plane or a saw or whatever. Yeah.
Jerill, what do you think of the wood prices? What's going on right now?
Well, Dixon, I'm glad you asked that. I just put out a 3-part video. The way I do wood, the prices hasn't really affected me because I get my wood in log form. And in February, we had a real bad ice storm up here. We had a rain that turned to ice, and then we had a windstorm. So we had all of these trees covered, encrusted in ice about 1/4 inch thick. And just picture a large tree, 50, 60 feet tall, 2 foot diameter or bigger, and it can't flex over the ice.
Yep,
and the wind comes along, so the trees either broke or they uprooted. So the ones that uprooted, I just got my tractor and drug them in and had them milled up, so I got a lot of nice wood. And I've been getting my wood in log form since the mid-90s. So the last time I bought a board was 2 years ago. I was doing a federal style table using holly inlay, and I was out of holly and I had to have it. And I bought one board. It was 6 inches wide, about 5 or 6 foot long. And the amount I paid for that was just unreal, and I said, never again,
Yeah.
So I turn away work rather than buy wood. If I can't use what I've got, I just won't do it.
Do you use kiln dried mostly, or is it air dried?
Both. Good question, Paul. I have a kiln. I actually am certified to operate a kiln, and I wrote a grant through the West Virginia Cultural Center and National Endowment for the Arts to get the funding to pay for the kiln.
Wow.
So
nice.
I kiln dry not just for me, but for other woodworkers. And it is a commercial kiln. When I bought it,
How big?
It is 1,000 board feet. When I bought it in 2011, it was the smallest commercial kiln available.
Wow.
And it's a E-Bike. E-Bike is the brand name.
Now, what power is that? Is that gas powered or
It is electric.
electric?
Electric, and I have a kilowatt meter hooked up on it, so I know exactly how much it costs me to dry wood.
So you have a 4,000 amp service.
Yeah, pretty big. Yeah. I will say that I have a lot of wood in my wood storage shed. I probably have about 8,000, 9,000 board feet of different species. Most of it is air dried, and then I'll throw it in the kiln for a few weeks before I actually use it. So most of the wood that I have, and it doesn't matter whether it's walnut, ash, maple, oak, hickory, I'll have about 35 cents to 75 cents a board feet in.
Now, do even if it's air dried, you say you throw it in the kiln for a while. Is that for insect infestation, or why do you do that?
That's a good question, Paul. The U.S. Forestry Service has a laboratory that does all the research and compiles the data for the kiln operators. In other words, they compile the information so the kiln operators know at what temperature to run the kiln at. Well, according to their data, the area that I live in, you cannot air dry below 12% moisture content. That's just the way it is. You know, geographically, each area is different.
Right.
And of course, for my area, they recommend 6 to 8%. So I'll air dry it, and usually when I air dry it, it gets down to about 15%, maybe 18%. And then I throw it in the kiln and take it down. I take it down to 7% and then condition it back up to 7.5%. And then that way I have no issues with it shrinking excessively or cupping or bowing or warping or anything like that.
Right. I do want to go back in time though for a second and relive this back with the finishes, which you were talking about with the water-based polyurethane. And I want to go back in time because years ago, before you could use a varnish, actually, you used to have to use what they called sanding sealer. You remember those days?
Yes, I do, Russ. Yep.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
Yeah. So we used to put, like, for instance, if we were doing the trim on a home and it was like a clear pine or whatever, and we would stain it with the walnut color that the customer would want. And then we would come back, and the first coat you put on it was a coat of sanding sealer, which actually sanded or sealed the stain into the wood and then you would come back and lightly sand it over. Then you would apply your varnish or whatever the finish was, or polyurethane. Well, it was years when back in the day there wasn't polyurethane; it was all varnish. So
right.
But I thought it was unique, and I wonder if you run into this too. Because one day I went into the paint store and I told them, I said, go ahead and give me a gallon of the sanding sealer. And they said, we don't carry that anymore. I went like, what? They said, yeah, we don't carry that anymore. So all the varnishes and the polyurethanes that are made nowadays, if you want to use them as the primer coat, and you just thin them with some mineral spirits and put them on as the first coat, and then you come follow them after. Did you run into that experience? I'm just curious as to.
No, now I will tell you this. Like I said, I've been woodworking for a long, long time, and when I was very young, I had the privilege of being around some of the older woodworkers. And I remember one gentleman, he made his own, and he started with glue. And he would take glue and dilute it way, way, way down and basically apply that on the wood, let it dry, and then sand it. And
I've heard of that. Yep.
That was to keep the finish from soaking into the wood.
Right.
And that's still a good process if you have a blotchy wood, if you don't want it to be blotchy,
Right.
Yeah.
But you never heard of have you ever used sanding sealer?
Yes.
Yeah. I just thought it was amazing that they went from a trend to everything had to have sanding sealer, and then the varnish, and then it was sanding sealer, and then polyurethane, and then all of a sudden it went to just thin the polyurethane down and use that as your first coat. So I just thought it was amazing. I was like, really? And they said, yep, that's all that's required now anymore.
I try to speed things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's another thing that was funny. They used to have two different types of sanding sealer. One was a lacquer-based sanding sealer, and the other was a mineral spirits or based petroleum-based sanding sealer. And so to speak, if you because I had a builder that did this, he had done all the doors in this house and couldn't figure out what was going on. He used the mineral-based sanding sealer for the first coat, And he ran out, went to the store, and didn't pay attention, and bought lacquer-based sanding sealer and did second coat over the top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he looked at me and says, "What do I have to do?" And I said, "Get a belt sander and start sanding."
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people's in the chat room out there? I can't see.
30.
30 on YouTube, but then we've got guys in
Yeah, we got
Twitch,
Facebook
Twitch,
and some on
Facebook.
Twitch, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I've got
It's
a
on
weird
Facebook.
question for you, Jerill.
Okay.
And this is mine. It's not one out of the chat. But do you ever wander off the Appalachian camp and kind of make something different, like mid-century modern, or you sneak off to IKEA and grab something and throw it together?
Yeah.
Just like, you know, in the dark side of your psyche, you run over to IKEA and grab.
Well, I will tell you this, Jim. When I got my degree in woodworking, my senior piece, I was required to design and build my own piece. So I did a Queen Anne drop front secretary with hidden compartments. When I got my degree in woodworking, is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
I thought.
So
somehow I
anyway,
didn't realize it.
you know, I've built period pieces, but in this area, it's very difficult to sell. Very difficult.
Okay.
And to be truthful, my passion is with what I call the Appalachian furniture. I build a lot of federal tables. I probably sell more federal tables than anything else, you know. You know, my passion is with the furniture, what I call the Appalachian furniture, you know.
Got a question for you, or not a question, but a comment, and I do understand what he's saying. Christopher Marcus Smith over on Facebook said, I want to say Zenheiser or Zenser. Zenser. Okay.
Yes.
Zenser makes a great universal sanding sealer, and yes, they do. I have run across that.
It is shellac.
Yeah, that's it. It's basically shellac.
It
Okay.
is.
And I was
by
going
my
to say
leg.
that exact same thing. It's basically just shellac, dude.
It is
That's all
shellac.
it is.
It is thin right down, and you have to pay attention to their cans. You have to look real close to see whether it says de-waxed or not. If it does not say de-waxed, then it's regular shellac, and you can't put anything over top of it. Or if you put anything over top of it, it won't adhere to it. But if you
Real
use the
quick, a
Zenser,
little thing is also shellac. For a lot of people that don't know this, back in the day, at least when people like use a
Jelly
marker,
beans.
or your kids got a hold of a pen or whatever and wrote on the wall, and they tried to paint over it and it would bleed back through. You take shellac, the old shellac, the de-waxed, and paint over that, and then put your paint over, and it would seal that in where that you could paint over the top of
Oh,
it.
no kid. Wow.
Yes,
Yeah.
and another thing is, what do you? It's not advertised, it's not known, but the old Aquanet hairspray
Yeah.
was shellac.
Yeah.
Yes, it was actually shellac. Yes, it was. I don't know if the new formulas or whatever, but I know during the old age, the old Aquanet hairspray was nothing more than
Paul still
shellac.
uses it on his hair.
I still use Aquanet. Hell yeah. I use Dixon taught me about spraying that on the bed of my 3D printer to make the print stick. So yeah.
That's what I use.
Another thing that shellac is great for is if you have, especially pine, where you have a lot of knots, and you can seal it with shellac, and then it won't bleed through your paint or your finish or whatever.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I found out, and I tried this a couple of times, and it worked good for me, was I shellacked a board and then stained it to see how it would turn out. And it actually turned out beautiful. It was a much more uniform surface than it would have been. It didn't have all those blotches in it, like some of the, like your cheaper pine and stuff. So, shellac is nothing more than bug. What do you call it?
It's shells off beetles, isn't it?
Well, they're actually the bug.
It's an excrement.
Yeah, regurgitate it.
There you go. I was looking
Usually-
for a better word than poop, but excrement
It's
sounds
poo.
good.
Usually, if I'm working with pine, when I'm all done, I'll give it a coat of shellac and then I'll sand it down with like 320 or 400.
Right.
And then when you put your finish on, you just get a phenomenally smooth finish out of it.
Really?
Yeah, you ever remember whenever the old advertisement was M&Ms with melt in your mouth but not in your hands?
Yep.
They were covered with shellac.
Well, that's what they make. That's what they make capsules out of is shellac, because stomach acid will dissolve the shellac. And,
Exactly.
Jim Dockrell out in the chat said it's from a lac beetle. LAC beetle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those beetles were shellacking.
Shellacking.
They were shellacking beetles.
So,
Any more questions out there?
Yeah, if you
Any
guys
of
have
y'all
something
got
to repost
Jim,
them
you told me a
for us.
list of about 30 questions. So,
Oh God! When I was watching Jerill's videos, I just started typing like crazy. So what do you think the listeners can do to support your Heritage Woodshop here?
I'm glad you asked that, Jim. Yeah. There's three things that I really need from the listeners. I need an underwriter or sponsor to offset the cost of producing the show. But of course, I realize most of your listeners cannot help in that area. But there's two areas that your listeners should be able to help me in. One is I look for a historic place to actually do the intro video. So if they know of any historic place in the Appalachian area that would allow me to come in and video, that they need to just let me know about that. And then the second one is if they know of an item or suggest an item that fits my description of the Appalachian furniture, then let me know and I'll feature it. Anything that was made for a specific task or chore, but is no longer used for that purpose. And there's a lot of them, a pie safe, ice box, bucket bench. There's a whole bunch of them, key hutch.
right.
So
How far away from West Virginia would you kind of float to go do a video?
Well, I'm actually getting ready to start season 3. I start usually in June, and I haven't started yet. And I've got a museum in Virginia that wants me to come down there, and I've actually already been there, and I like what they have. It's a parlor gaming table, a very unique design. So I may go down to Virginia. I have been over into Ohio. I would like to venture into Kentucky or Virginia, even Tennessee, in any of the Appalachian states. There's 13.
In either Kentucky or Tennessee, isn't there a Appalachian Heritage Museum in I'm trying to think where it is. It's not too far off I-75. And
I'm not aware of that.
I think I got one by Chattanooga. My family's around.
Is that where it is, around Chattanooga?
I've seen one around there.
They got big
Probably
billboards for it along 75 there.
I'll have to check that out, Paul.
That's where all my family's from, is right around Chattanooga, Cleveland area.
Lynn's handcrafted wood sign said that Massachusetts have lots of places that would work for you, but that's Massachusetts. That's a kind of a fur piece away from where he's at.
It is actually. I went up there many years ago to a place called Sturbridge Village.
I knew you were going to say that.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that's
Love
quite a
that
place. Chris's workshop out in chat just reminded me, in fact, that Berea, Kentucky is a phenomenal place. It's a big artisan area there, and it's part of Berea College. And
I've been there, Paul. That's a very nice area. They have a very strong art community there. That college their philosophy is when you get an education, you not only learn how to use your mind, but you learn how to use your hands. So all of the students there have to learn a particular trade or craft. Now they have since expanded it quite a bit, but a lot of students there, before they get their degree, they have to take certain classes, whether it be pottery, woodworking, metalworking, but they've expanded that to include things like what's it called where you work in a hotel, the hotel industry.
Hospitality.
They've expanded it to include the hospitality industry, tourism, But yeah, that's a very big area in the art community, and they do feature a lot of the Appalachian ways there. Yeah.
All right, guys, help me out.
They have a rest area.
Tony Straybill,
Streeble.
All right,
Tony Streeble.
He says Jerill's always welcome in my area. Did you know him?
What was his name?
Tony Streeble.
Oh, Tony. Hey, Tony. Yeah, Tony and I got to know each other over Facebook, and we've become good friends, and we actually call each other and occasionally talk. Tony, I'm glad to see you're out there, and I believe he's down in, I think, Georgia, I believe. But yeah, Tony's a tremendous woodworker. You should really check out some of his stuff. And he has a beautiful, beautiful shop with a nice view overlooking a little patch of woods. Yeah, Tony's a great guy.
Jeff Walsman said you're always welcome to come to Chicago.
Absolutely.
Yeah, big cities and me. I'll tell you this, Russ. When I was little, I used to say, I don't want to go to any city that's got a building taller than Uncle Clem's silo. So
that's a problem in Chicago for you then.
Yeah. Big cities.
Lynn Handcrafted Wood Sign says there's also Old Deerfield and Plymouth Plantation.
Yeah,
I have heard of Old Deerfield. Yes. Yeah.
great place to have been there.
Yeah, they people are now. I guess people just all of a sudden starting to wake up and starting to.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a really important question. If I don't live around Virginia or West Virginia, Kentucky, where can we see your shows at?
Good question, Jim.
Can you toss those things up on YouTube and make them private, and then give us the links for them? I'd love to watch them.
They're not private. They're on YouTube. They are.
Oh, okay.
What I do, because I'm the owner, I can do whatever I want with them. I have a gentleman's agreement with PBS. I don't post them until after PBS airs them. Usually I post them 1 week after they air. Now, season 2 starts 1 week from today. It starts on Saturday, June the 19th at 12:30 p.m. And a show will air every Saturday until the end of the year, or till the Saturday before Christmas. So if you're outside of West Virginia, all you have to do is look on my YouTube channel, subscribe, and you will be able to see the full episode just 1 week after it airs. And it will be on the YouTube channel.
Now, if you go to pbs.org, are your shows on their website also?
Oh, good question.
Actually, let me see. Can you see that?
Not yet.
No.
Okay. All right. Actually, no, they do not. You have to go through West Virginia PBS. West Virginia PBS, I believe, has a program where you can join and watch any of their programs over the internet, but you have to pay. You have to pay them for that, I believe.
Oh, okay. Because I know pbs.org. You can just go to their website and watch shows like This Old House and the bigger shows. And I just wondered if yours was available on there too.
It is not, and the reason it's not is because I'm the owner producer. The show that you're talking about, those are usually owned by PBS. Usually,
Oh, okay.
or
Gotcha.
they have an agreement with it. And I think somebody here earlier had mentioned watching PBS and watching Tommy Mack.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you remember, he's not on PBS now. There was
No.
yeah. Well,
No, he's got so big time that he has his own little show and he don't do PBS anymore.
Yeah,
Well,
but he's not like he was. I mean, I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he's.
But he's into. He has pointed himself in the direction of trying to make money off of what he's doing, and I don't say that's wrong. Don't get me wrong, but that's where he's no longer into PBS.
Well, Tommy Mack left PBS because of a legal issue, and I'm not going to go into it any more than that.
Yeah. I agree with you, but he still. I enjoy watching some of his stuff. I watch it every once in a while.
He is extremely knowledgeable, very, very talented, and of course, he went to North Bennett Street School.
That was right down the street from my office.
Yeah, he had a great place in Boston.
I looked at taking a class there. I just couldn't afford it.
One of the best schools in the nation.
Yeah.
His new shop is
like
just
I
down the
said,
street.
I watch him every so often.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch now I see your high lumber prices. Well, part 1, 2, and 3. I can't wait to watch them now.
Everybody's into the high lumber prices, and I want to tell you, I know the solution to it. All you have to do is do exactly what I say, and I guarantee you 72 hours, things will change. Just don't buy any lumber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem of it being is they jack the price up. My son Cameron is in construction, and he works for a company that does exactly builds houses. And when this first started happening, I called him. I said, "What the heck?" I said, "How are y'all doing this? I mean, it's like the prices, like a 2x4 went from $2 to like $6." And he goes, "Dad, we just tack it on to the." He works for a very, very, very big company that builds houses, and he goes, "Dad, we just tack it on to the end. A house that would cost $60,000 to build yesterday cost us $80,000 to $90,000 to build tomorrow."
Where are you getting $80,000, $90,000?
Hold on. And he goes, and he said, "And guess what? As fast as we can build them, they're buying."
Oh yeah.
What's the alternative?
So my son Cameron is actually in the living room. He came over to visit me tonight, so I can bring him in here and he'll tell you the same thing. So, yeah, it's a matter of the big major like Georgia Pacific and all those other, I can't remember all of them, but all those other major companies that produce wood. It's not on the end of the people that are cutting the logs and putting everything in. Those big companies are driving the price up.
Yep.
And if you, once again, if everybody would just, every company in the United States says, we're not going to buy a 2x4 or anything for 72 hours. I guarantee you that you would see the prices plummet. But guess what? Nobody's going to do it. And so here we are in this big quagmire of.
Russ, do I have time to show just a few pictures?
Yes, you do.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know how to share the screen?
Yeah, Paul can tell you.
Hey, there's IT.
I got the IT department.
IT is here.
Okay, let me explain to you how you do it. You go down to the bottom where you see that little thing that says share. It's in your taskbar.
Paul, you need to pick up the pace.
Oh,
see that?
Yep.
All right, you click on that. And then you're going to say share screen. Got it?
Got it.
Now you're going to be brought up to one or two or more screens. So you have to pick out the screen you want to share. But here's the thing. Like when you pick on your screen that you're on, it's going to go into this multiple, like thousands and thousands of screens.
Yeah.
So you need to have the picture or the video already pre-selected in like Explorer or whatever, so you can show it. So you can really click over that real quick. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Does that show?
No, you're not going to do it until you click over on it. You have to go to share screen.
I did that.
Well, it should bring up a box with share screen, like one or two.
Oh, wait, let me go back. And cancel.
We've all been here, so.
Yeah.
Paul,
Yeah, I know so much about it. The other week I tried to share my screen and I found out I didn't need to share the screen. I just needed to click on myself and make it larger.
Okay, share screen.
It should bring up a box.
It says choose what to share, entire screen, window.
You choose an entire screen.
Okay.
But you need to have the picture or whatever you want is selected pre brought up, so to speak, so that you can click on it and show it.
Okay. So,
Yeah, you should have the file and then click on them JPEGs and then
Right. Just file and click on it.
share it.
oh, yeah, hang on.
All right. So here's I'll explain it to you. So I'm at that point where you see share. Well, I have screen one or screen two, and you're not going to have that. So I also say share screen one. So as soon as I do that, you see how it goes into that quagmire?
Yeah.
All right. So what I need to do is have another screen open that I can open and show.
Well, Phil.
That's all right. We'll just skip that
Yeah,
part.
it's 9:23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've gone over your time anyway.
You
Russ.
can
It's not
Hey.
the first time.
you can go
It
to
won't be the first time, and it won't be the last,
be the
my
last.
friend. So
website.
don't worry about
Yeah.
worry about going over the time, because that it does it's the time set there just as a formality, so to speak.
Well, but I'm in a conference room and I've only got so much time here in the conference room.
Yes, I agree. Okay, yeah, I understand.
You can go to JerillVanceWoodworks.com and go to his gallery and see a lot of his work there, or go to Appalachian Heritage Woodshop.com, and that has the his newer pieces.
Yeah.
Yes. If you would be so kind, Al, I know you're the
AppalachianWoodshop.com or Appalachian Heritage
Woodshop.
Woodshop is out there.
And don't forget, Russ, you got to ask them the all important.
The shop.
yeah.
Everybody's popping up. Actually, the woodworking can. Jerill, I hate to do this to you, but everybody wants to know the woodworking confession.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
woodworking confession is we want you to tell us something that you did in your wood shop that after you did it, you went like, why the hell did I do that?
Oh.
And the more blood, lost members, any of those things. I'll give you an example, Jerill, and I tell this every time I do this. Is one day I was holding up a 3/4 inch of wood and a piece of 1/4 inch wood over the top of it with a 2-inch nail, and I hit it with my nail driver. So it went through the 3/4, the 1/4, and through my finger. So We love that kind of stuff. So we want to know something you just totally did in your workshop that messed up.
This is what I did. It wasn't in my workshop, but this is what I did. I was actually handing up a piece of plywood. I had on leather gloves, and a splinter came off of the plywood, went through the leather glove, through my finger, and out the other side of the leather glove. Now, it did not hurt, but I did the dumbest thing I could have done.
You pulled it out.
No, I took my glove off.
Oh,
And when I took the glove off, then it broke on both sides. So I had the splinter through my finger and no way of grabbing hold of it to pull it out.
That's in the top 5.
Yeah,
I actually had to go and have it surgically removed.
Oh,
Yeah.
dear God.
Dumbest thing I ever did was take
Here, Chris. Let me get that, Chris.
yeah, fix that. We gotta fix that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's
That
a good one.
is definitely good.
I
That
should
makes me
never take the
cringe.
glove off.
Yeah, I've had so many splinters in my hand so many times that makes me cringe. I had to have one surgically removed.
Making me
Yeah,
weak.
it drove. I was carrying some old pine boards, and I had like 2 or 3 of them in each hand. And the one in the right hand was trying to slip out. Well, you know how you can like pick it up and let go, and run your hand back down real quick and grab a hold of them to get a better grip, right?
Yep.
Well, I picked that one up and let go. And when I reached down, it drove a splinter right up through right up through here, all the way into my hand. It was actually about over 2 inches deep, and it broke off immediately.
Yeah.
And so I came in and I had my hand there and I held it, and my wife looked at it and she goes, "Here, I got a pair of tweezers." I said, "Oh, no, you won't." I went directly to the not the ER, but one of the walk-in clinics.
Yeah.
And the doctor
Urgent
looked at it and said, "Yeah, I carried it around. He actually put it in a specimen bottle for me because the sucker was so long,
Awesome.
and put some saline solution. I used to carry it around in a saline bottle. That thing was so long. I carried it around for years and showed people this is what came out of a piece of wood." Yeah.
Thank you, Dixon.
So yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yep. You're welcome.
Splinters can be nasty. Let me tell you, splinters can be really nasty. And like he said, even though you're wearing gloves, they can flat out penetrate your glove.
Yep.
Yeah, it's almost like you need a glove made out of stainless steel or something so it can't get through it. All right, guys. Let me tell you, Jerill, absolutely great show. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Appreciate you having me, Russ.
Well, we appreciate you being here. I mean, you've answered so many questions and everything. And we try, if we didn't get to your question once again out there, I'm sorry. We tried very hard to get them all out there.
it was good when I wrote down so many notes.
And I noticed that I really didn't hear any crickets tonight.
No crickets.
No crickets
Yeah, I
tonight.
didn't hear any crickets. Yeah, the crickets weren't here tonight. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it very much. Thanks to Jerill for being here as our guest. Really great show. And I hope a lot of y'all come back and watch it tomorrow or the next day. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Dixon. Thank you, Chris. Everybody being out here. There's only one thing left to say, and that is, and by the way, Jerill, when I close out the show, you can just hang around just for a few minutes. It's not going to just close out, right?
Okay.
So
Please
just
do.
don't click off and go away. So anyway, there's only one thing I need to say, and that is if you're too busy to get out in your shop and make some sawdust, by God, you're just too darn busy. Just give me sawdust, lots of sawdust all around me and everywhere. I like it flying all around my shop and even in my beard and hair. Good night, everybody. Thank you for watching, and God bless.
Live long and prosper.
And just remember, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
What he said.
You got to get out of here.
Carol can't stay there either. So.